Hello, folks. My name is Arun Murthy. I'm one of the founders of Hortonworks. I'm here to talk to you a little bit today about where I see Hadoop going and where it's also been so far. Before I start, it's absolutely imperative to take a moment to thank the community. Without this amazing community, Hadoop would have never gone to where it is. I started all the way with the Google papers on GFS and MapReduce. Yahoo took the lead in actually taking Hadoop forward. Folks like Facebook came up with Hive. Most recently, you had University of California, Berkeley with Spark, TU Berlin with Flink, on and on and on. Without you guys, Hadoop would not have been what it is today. And my journey started off all the way back in 2006, where Hadoop was just HDFS and MapReduce, right? HDFS allowed you to store data, and MapReduce allowed you to process the data in a specific way, right? And what we did as part of the Hadoop community was recognize that Hadoop had to move beyond MapReduce, and that was the genesis for YARN. Now, what's exciting for me is that with YARN, we not only have engines, open source engines like Flink or Spark or MapReduce or Tez right now running, but we also have services, and equally importantly, a lot of commercial platforms, whether it's from IBM or SaaS Grid, for example, they're all running on YARN right now. Now, let's look ahead. Now, what is the future of Hadoop? What is the destiny of Hadoop? Honestly, the future or destiny of Hadoop is completely tied to the destiny of data itself. So let's look at some trends in data. You talk to anybody, they'll tell you that today in the world there's maybe 4 or 5 zettabytes of data. And within the next 4 or 5 years, it's going to grow by an order of magnitude to 40 or 50 zettabytes. Now, another trend we see is that it's really, really cheap to not just produce data, but also to move data around, communicate it, the communication channels, and also to store and process it. So you now have sensors, whether on your clothes, on your shoes, whatever it is, they're generating data, and then you have smartphones, which are now such a key part of the social fabric. With that, you now have you're generating lots of data. It's actually also, like I said, getting cheaper to move data around. You talk to our friends in the oil and gas industry, and they'll tell you that 80 to 90% of their oil wells today, all across the globe, are actually covered with 3 and 4G networks. And they're much more cheaper compared to all the alternatives they had before. They had to use satellite links in the past. Similarly, technologies like Hadoop are making it really easy to store data on HDFS and also process data through various engines, whether it's Spark or Flink or Tez or MapReduce on YARN. The other trend we see everywhere is what we call as the Internet of Anything at Hortonworks. Everything from clothes to sensors, they're all generating data. And a lot of these sources of data now are actually outside of the data center itself. That's why the Internet of Anything is such a key trend in the Hadoop ecosystem. The next trend I see is if you look at the IT landscape, in the past, 20 years ago, we would run one app per machine, and then with virtualization, you could run many, many apps per machine. So the other trend that's happened in the last, I would say, couple of years, which is very nascent, is this notion of containers or containerization. And that's where Docker, which is again driven by a great open source community, is such a key advance in the data center. Now, if you put all of these things together, what's happening is as you build these new apps, we're beginning to realize that all these new applications, which consume data, which process data, which make predictions, they're all actually data apps, right? So we now think of all apps being data apps. And what are the key characteristics there? Some of the key characteristics are, it's got to be easy to consume and operate. It's got to be secure from the ground up, and it's got to be reproducible in the sense that you should be able to take anybody's app and make it go quickly on your platform or your data center, your Hadoop platform. So to do that, we think of this notion of an assembly now in the Hadoop ecosystem. What this means is that you should be able to take data processing engines, whether it's Spark or Flink, and data services, whether it's HBase or Tomcat or Mongo or Cassandra. You want to take all of these and put them together, wire them as an assembly, and then operate them in a secure and simple manner. And for me, that is the future of Hadoop. That is where Hadoop, and especially YARN, needs to go. The trends of Docker and YARN are really, really key. It allows us to take all these apps, download them wherever. It's got to be as easy as an iPhone. Today, you have to jury rig all of these things together, wire them together. The future is it's got to be really, really easy to just download this thing from anybody's GitHub, if you will, and run on your data center, on your Hadoop platform. As we look ahead into the next 10 years, Hadoop has now been around for almost a decade. And as we look to the second decade for Hadoop, that is where we as a Hadoop community can make Hadoop so much easier to consume and operate. Now, as much as we look forward and are so optimistic about our future, it's also time for us to actually look backwards and actually celebrate where we've gotten. To that extent, we at Hortonworks are really, really glad to announce that we're honored to host a series of parties to celebrate Hadoop's 10th birthday party. We'll have a number of parties, and most of them will actually coincide with the Hadoop Summit. So, for example, we'll have one in Ireland, Dublin, to go with the Hadoop Summit EU. We'll have one in San Jose and all over the world. I plan to be at each one of them, and I want to take that opportunity to thank all of you and hope and invite even more of you to join the party. And hopefully we look ahead 10 years from now and think that the second decade of Hadoop was at least as good, if not significantly better than the first. With that, thank you so much.